this is Daniel Mart, and this time around, I kind of want to discuss a film that I've had in my mind for some time that I kind of want to make, and I think by the end of this month, at the very least, I think I am actually going to start making it. Now, for those who don't know, I've been directing for a couple years now, for about 5 years, I want to say at this point. My first directorial feature was The Deal. I made that back in 2018, but it wasn't released until 2019 because of some of the circumstances that happened behind the scenes because of that. So I've been directing for a few years at this point, since 2018. We're in 2023. Aside from The Deal, I've directed Unwritten, Quince, The Date, Corner, several episodes of silent low-cast cinematics, and 1-minute movies. So, I've been around the block for a few times over at this point. The idea that I have for this upcoming project, it's an idea I've had for some time, and basically, the movie I want to make is basically a slow cinema movie, or a slow cinema style movie. Now, for those who don't know what slow cinema is, slow cinema, essentially, it's a movie that focuses on static shots, long duration shots, and pans, tracking shots. Those are some of the hallmarks of it. Some other hallmarks includes the lack of dialogue, very little camera movement, sound, how the sound is actually used, in the sense that they usually don't have soundtracks. It's a lot of ambient sounds, background sounds, and lots of long takes. So those are basically the hallmarks, the elements of a slow cinema movie. Slow cinema, in a sense, is part of that whole experimental movement of filmmaking, of underground filmmaking, experimental filmmaking, and it's something that's always interested me to a certain degree. It's something that I've always been I don't know if shocked is the right word, but I've always been intrigued by how popular it actually is. Now, granted, it is experimental, it is underground, so it's not something you really see out in the mainstream per se, but the fact that it's something that a lot of people who are really involved in film, a lot of people who love film itself, filmmaking and film, it's something that, for me, it's always just attracted me to it. Like, why are we so interested in looking at this long take that's, in some cases, literally 5 minutes long? And what about it is just intriguing to you? And I don't know why, but I've always had this idea to basically make a slow cinema movie. And I think one of the things that comes with it is that usually, not always, but usually slow cinema movies, at the end, they always tend to have some kind of plot twist or some kind of twist ending or surprise ending, whatever you want to call it. Something about that just has always intrigued me, and I don't really know how to explain it. I think, for me, slow cinema is something that I think I've always experimented with to a certain degree. Unwritten, I think, is maybe the closest I've come to actually doing a slow cinema film. Because the other thing with slow cinema, at least for me personally, it's the type of film that's always like a day in the life. It's this moment in time for this individual or these individuals. You're just watching them do their daily life, as mundane as it is. And I think Unwritten, whether subconsciously or not, I think is the closest I've ever come to doing a slow cinema style movie. It's one of those things that's always intrigued me, even Unwritten, how I'm taking this moment in time of this writer, and we're just looking at his daily life, and it's something that's always intrigued me. And I remember back then, I wish I could find the comment now, but that was in my old Instagram account before it got hacked. And I remember there's a filmmaker who saw it, and he said that, and he's actually the one who gave me the idea of slow cinema. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I guess you can say I was going for that. Again, it's just a avenue of film. It's just an avenue of filmmaking, experimental filmmaking, whatever, that's always intrigued me. And it's something you don't, again, because it's so experimental, because it's so underground, it's not really something you see out there in the mainstream. And I think in part because of that, I kind of just want to do my own slow cinema movie, whether it be an hour and a half long or 3 hours long. I don't know. We'll figure that out, I guess, as the journey continues. But I think the other thing with slow cinema, it's easy to make. I'm not trying to discredit slow cinema, like, oh, it's all easy, that's why you should be making slow cinema. No, I don't mean it either. But like, I feel with slow cinema specifically, you could really take your time in crafting whatever story you want to make, as mundane as it truly is. That's the thing with it. You could literally have this camera propped in here, like, example right now, let's say this is a shot. I could literally be sitting here 10 minutes straight doing nothing. That is a scene. I shit you not, that could be a scene. And people would actually find that interesting. And just the idea of that's just, I guess for me, I kind of just want to see how far I can go with the idea of slow cinema, making a slow cinema film, keeping that mundanity of life, and yet still make it interesting, and then to have kind of that twist on the end, so to speak. And I think also when I was thinking of slow cinema, I was thinking of some of the movies that are both considered slow cinema, and then some of the movies I personally would consider slow cinema. I mean, of course, my inspiration from this comes from certain type of movies that I've seen. Now, I think the most iconic, or one of the most iconic movies in the slow cinema movement, has to be John Dillman. I mean, that's just an iconic movie as it's like 3 hours long, 3.5 hours long. It's literally about this French woman living her life, I think in the span of 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. Her life, how she deals with her son, how she does her job, and it's such an intriguing film. Like it's such an intriguing film, and I actually rewatched it recently, about week and a half ago. I was just captivated every single moment. Again, doing the most mundane things like her cutting the vegetables for dinner, and you don't really see that in like most movies. Like forget Hollywood movies, you don't see that in most movies. Period. So I think just capturing the mundanity of life is just so interesting. You also have Stalker. I mean, most Andrei Tarkovsky films, they're considered slow cinema as is. Stalker's just the only one I've seen of his, to be honest. I mean, I know he has Nostalgia, I know he has Mirrors. That's just the only one I've seen. I'm going to be completely honest. But yeah, most Tarkovsky films are basically considered slow cinema. Another film that I think I really like, and I really do need to rewatch, it's called Caché. The English translation is Hidden. It's this 2004-2005 French film. And I think that's another film that has just the most mundane plots ever. And then everybody, especially with this movie, everybody talks about the twist, what happens at the end, because it's very much an investigative movie. Granted, you do have the mundanities of life, but it's a very much an investigative, almost like crime thriller to a certain degree, which is kind of weird because crime thriller mixed with the slow cinema seems kind of out of nowhere. It's still very mundane in a very exciting way. It's very mundane, and then you have this twist, and that's the thing with that. Again, with most of these slow cinema movies, you have this twist. Even John Dillman, you have this twist. And I'm pretty sure the twist in Caché had to be inspired by the twist in John Dillman, if I'm being completely honest. It just had to. I can't imagine it not being inspired by it. Stalker also has this twist. Another film that I think also fits into the slow cinema mode is actually Taxi Driver. Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver. I think that's another film that falls perfectly into the slow cinema. From some of the articles I've seen, it's not considered slow cinema, but I honestly think it really should be, because again, you're living in this day-to-day life of this guy, and all things considered, it's very slow. And I think the one shot that really encapsulates its slow cinema-like style, so to speak, is when Travis is in the phone booth. No, he's not in the phone booth. He's talking on the phone, and the camera just kind of pans to the side, looking at the hallway, and you just hear Travis having this horrible phone call after the botched date he had with Sybil Shepherd. I forget her character's name, but Sybil Shepherd's her character. And I think that's just not a landmark, but I think that's just such a hallmark. That's a better word, hallmark of slow cinema. Just the way it is. Yeah, I think Taxi Driver is just another one that could really fit into that slow cinema mode. Another one is Gus Van Sant's Last Days, which is basically a Kurt Cobain biography film, or biopic, kind of, not really. But I think that's another one that falls into slow cinema. In my opinion, Ghost Story from 2017, 2018, give or take. I think that's another one that definitely should fall under the slow cinema category. I mean, you literally have like a 6-minute scene of the girl eating the cake. I forget which actress it is right now, but the girl just eating the cake as the ghost literally just looks at his ex-wife. I mean, they were still together when the character died, but eating this cake or pie. Was it pie? Cake? I forget what it is right now. But again, I think that's another one should fall under the slow cinema banner. And again, it has a very interesting twist, so to speak, at the end. It's one of those things, like, I just started thinking about some of these films that could be considered slow cinema. Again, another one, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Also, a French film. I don't know what it is, but the French also seem to have a lot of slow cinema. Black Girl, which is another film that not many people know about. It's a Somalian film from like the 1970s. It's a little bit over an hour long, and I think that's another slow cinema film that really should be in this conversation. Basically, it's about this girl who she gets bought by, I don't know if bought is the right word per se, but also it's a French production. Now that I think it's like Somalian French production. So again, the French coming back in here, but like this French family buys this black girl. I mean, it's literally called Black Girl. I think it's like the Somalian girl or some Nigerian girl. I'll double check that one. But they buy this girl to be like a maid, and the social implications that come with that. There are a lot of colonialistic symbolism and ideologies in this film, and conversations to have with this film. It's a really good film. It's a very underrated film, if I'm being honest. But it also has this twist at the end, which I think is maybe a bit more expected given the way the film is formatted, but it's still a twist. And again, when it comes to this kind of film style, slow cinema. Also, The Witch. I think The Witch is maybe the most out there claim I have for slow cinema, just because it's such a fantastical, like literally a horror fantasy, gothic horror fantasy movie. But then again, Tarkovsky is considered slow cinema, and a whole lot of his stuff is like low key sci-fi and whatever. So I think this could fit in there. I don't know. I just like the idea of having shots linger there for a long while. Another one I think I'd have to rewatch it, but I think 2001 Space Odyssey could maybe fit under this, or Barry Lyndon. I'd have to rewatch both of those. I haven't seen those in years. I feel the impact of slow cinema has always been there, but it's not one that's ever been properly recognized. I think that's the thing with it, because to a certain degree it's just so tedious to both make and watch. I feel to a certain degree most people just disregard it, and I think that's kind of sad, because I think it's a very beautiful art form for cinema that's just not properly explored all that much. And I think just because of that, I want to try to make my own slow cinema film. I don't know, again, I have no idea what it will be about right now. Again, I'm just like formulating plots. All I really have right now are like shots in my head. I have nothing to I have no real connective tissue. And if I'm being honest, to a certain degree, there shouldn't be any connective tissue between the scenes, because this is, again, the mundanity of life, into that drastic twist at the end, which could go either way. I don't know, something about it just really attracts me, and I kind of really want to make a slow cinema film. So yeah, that's my conversation for this week. I just want to make a slow cinema film. I don't know how long it'll be. I don't know if it'll be like an hour, hour and a half, 3 hours, who the hell knows. I just want to make a slow cinema film. I don't really, yeah. And I kind of just wanted to discuss that and get my thoughts out on it, and I don't know, see what happens. I don't know, you guys hold me to it. Go from there. So yeah, that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart, signing off.